Hi everybody, my name is Riley-Mercado and I'm here to talk to you about Fountain Square, which is a community on the south side of Indianapolis. So to start out, I have some fun little props. As you can see here, this is actually a picture of a big city, and this is here to represent Indianapolis because Fountain Square is only about a 5-minute drive from downtown. And to give you a quote from historic Indianapolis writer Tiffany Brown, Fountain Square's cultural history is predominantly a German area, then Irish, and then Italian, and so there's a very strong work ethic here as well as a slightly European feel to the area. To hear a little bit about their history, it is now a thriving art community. It started out in 1835 as a 264-acre farm that was purchased by Nicholas McCarty and Calvin Fletcher, and it started out as a primarily residential area, quickly switching over into substantial settlement and rapid growth beginning in the 1870s. Today, it is a community that is in the midst of a lot of transitions, and to give you a little bit more about what is new and what is going on here, there is now a thriving commercial district, so that's why I have a picture of a toy store. There are several areas that are lined by specialty art shops. And then, as you can see on the other side, this is a picture of a festival because they are known for their July music festival that gathers lots of visitors every year. And to hear a little bit about the residents who truly go to work and live in this community, Truilla says that the median household income is only $29,000, with 45% of residents being single, 43% being homeowners, and the primary race is Caucasian, followed by Hispanic. The median age is 35 years old, and only 8% of residents are college educated. So, it is known for the restaurants that are off of Prospect Avenue. So this is a picture I colored of a pizza. Some of their Italian restaurants are very well known. However, interestingly enough, a lot of the businesses and restaurants that are currently in this area are not really meeting the needs of the current residents. And part of this is because 13.2% of the population struggles with speaking English well, according to city data, followed by about a third of residents never completed their high school diploma. And so we are at a high level of poverty here. And a lot of times these families and couples cannot afford to go out to fancy dining. The poverty rate, the percentage of households that are living below the poverty line, is 37.4%, and 46% of households have children. So to do an assessment, I created some maps of what the area has, and according to the Indianapolis Cultural Trail, as well as some things that I have looked at through Greater Indianapolis area maps, this area has a middle school, an elementary school, a library, a little over a dozen restaurants, like I said, a pediatrician's office, a family dentist's office, grocery store, one grocery store, a cultural trail, and a bus route. So that is beneficial. However, there are a lot of problems with this area. For instance, there is a park that is very nice, but it is right next to a major highway, and a lot of these families that are impoverished do not have reliable transportation. And so even though the park is less than 2 blocks out of the neighborhood limits, these families cannot utilize this resource because they can't get to it safely. Another issue is the fact that a lot of times families have issues with not feeling like they're going to grow up and have a good quality of life and be able to succeed because it was a previously dangerous area that was gang infested, specifically by the Problem Child gang and the Fountain Square Boys gang. And there was even some violent crime where people were murdered in broad daylight. And so a lot of these families feel stuck and like they can't accomplish anything socially and politically in this area. However, I chose this picture to highlight that it is an area where there is a lot of construction and there is currently a lot of change. We do have a Boys and Girls Club that is helping to renovate the area a little bit and change the perception so that it is seen as a pleasant place to be. On top of that, I interviewed Jane Zobel, who is a school social worker in this area, gathered her opinion about what she feels professionally is a problem for the area. She said that addiction and drug use are huge, and yet there is resistance in the community to have like a methadone clinic or an on-site addictions area because of the perception of what visitors and people that we are trying to attract to the area will think of when they see that addictions is significantly a problem here. On top of that, I talked to local residents. I interviewed a family that lives off of Jefferson Avenue in this area and talked to them about what they feel like the issues are. I actually interviewed a mom, a dad, and 3 siblings, 1 boy and 2 girls. And they actually have an issue primarily with the school system because they feel that it is a high-need school that is fairly poorly rated, and they get frequent calls from the school to come get their kids who are showing significant behavioral issues. And because they get so many calls, they don't feel like they can hold down a job because they have so many unexcused absences. So I looked at the Indiana Department of Education, and in fairness, their school was very low rated as far as I-STEP readiness and exams for rigorous and college-ready standards. And so they probably do have a serious point there, along with the fact that there was an incident at that school just 3 weeks ago where there was a dirty syringe from heroin usage on the school grounds, and one of the kids picked up the syringe and then tried to stab the syringe when he was angry at another classmate. Luckily, it was confiscated quickly by the alert teacher and nothing ensued out of that situation. But it highlights how there is a little bit of a problem in this transition community. On top of that, I really liked IUPUI's Polo Center as they describe how their envision is to have this beautiful art community with galleries, and yet the John Boner Neighborhood Center and the IUPUI Polo Center had a wonderful quote that said, the current atmosphere is hit or miss regarding renovations and upkeep. Street after street is lined with small single-family homes. Some are well kept, down to precisely placed decorations on the front door. Others are strewn with trash, old furniture, and children's toys. Also, this area has been in the news recently for vandalism, burglary, theft, crimes of a violent nature, unfortunately, and so that is contributing to some of the problems here. And the significant needs of the community members, according to SEND, which stands for Southeast Neighborhood Development, is needing additional education or work experience to obtain a more gainful work experience, along with problematic issues with affordable childcare. Often, like I mentioned earlier, these families have children and yet they feel stuck because they cannot get ahead by getting a job that pays well. But part of the problem with getting a job that pays well is also having someone watch their kids so that they can go and get those experiences. Also, there is a language barrier problem. There's a large community in this area that has signs outside of their business that are in primarily Spanish, and so it can be very intimidating for someone who is English speaking to walk into a place not knowing if they were going to be able to communicate successfully with you. And unfortunately, there's a cultural stigma and issue as well, because in the news and in this area, there is a lot of hurt feelings and rough economy over illegal immigrants. And unfortunately, it's assumed that because there is a large Latino area within Fountain Square, that these people must be illegal immigrants who are here stealing other people's jobs. And upon research from the Poll Center and many other sites like City Data, that is absolutely not the case. Most of the people born in this area are born here, raised here, and continue to live here and are not illegal. However, the perception still persists, unfortunately. So there are some good strengths of this community, however. Keep Indianapolis Beautiful, which is powered by some of the large corporations like Eli Lilly here, are really trying to make a difference in renovating the area, and that's very helpful. Along with the Murphy Art Center and the Wheeler Art Center, that are gaining a lot of momentum and receiving a lot of grant funding and donations for this area to really improve. And that is a quick summary of my presentation. I wanted to quickly end with saying that I really enjoyed this project. I feel very close to this community because I grew up in this area, and so I remember how this area transformed within the last 15 years or so. And now my practicum is based in this area, so I'm really understanding it, both from really getting to know the residents well as from a professional social work perspective, both from professionals in the field, like all of the wonderful people at School 39, William McKinley Elementary, as well as my own experience through our knowledge of micro and macro practice. So that is my brief presentation. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions at all, and I look forward to hearing everyone else's thoughts.